the 20th century.
This is a story of brutal conquest and blithe ignorance. Ethiopia, a primitive African kingdom, would soon be overrun by Benito Mussolini's mechanized fascist army. The tactics used by the Italian forces would outrage Americans. As we launched protest after protest to no avail, we would fail to recognize that what had occurred was the final chapter of a century of European imperial conquest and the first hint of the manner in which World War II would be fought.
By 1934, Mussolini had forged one of the most powerful armies in Europe. He proclaimed that it was Italy's duty and right to colonize and civilize Ethiopia. In her first attempt, Italy had been defeated in 1896. Vengeance for that humiliation would be a test of the modern Italian spirit. Haile Selassie was enough of a realist to take Mussolini seriously, but he placed his faith in the League of Nations to stop Italian aggression, and the rest of the world shared his hopes.
Ethiopia was not representative of Africa. As one of two independent nations on that continent in 1935, we tended to view Haile Selassie's kingdom as a totally isolated entity. As for the rest of Africa, few native emissaries ever visited the formal reception rooms of the State Department. Africa was simply considered a European colony. Black Americans who might have raised their voices in protest were themselves not fully franchised as American citizens. In the 1930s, they were a silent minority. So the problems of Africa in general and Ethiopia in particular were largely beyond the concern of most Americans, an opaqueness we would all pay for.
Italy's Ethiopian venture was the outgrowth of the political turmoil that followed the First World War. By 1922, a restless journalist named Benito Mussolini and his ruthless fascist party emerged from the pack. Mussolini promised law and order and a war on communism. Mussolini sprang to power with his flamboyant march on Rome and aligned his fascisti with the church, the monarchy, and the middle class. He became prime minister under King Victor Emmanuel. His strong will and charisma instilled a new pride in Italians. During his bombastic reign, the strutting Il Duce would spread fear throughout Europe as he announced plans to rearm Italy. Mussolini was impulsive, ambitious, unpredictable. He was also a tyrant and a militarist who once said, "War is to man as maternity is to woman." Mussolini would wage war with a modern mechanized army and a powerful air force. The dictator admired American General Billy Mitchell and was impressed by his demonstrations of air power. Because Il Duce's militancy and saber-rattling alarmed many Americans, in 1931 he broadcast a message of peace to the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very glad to take this opportunity. Italy will never take the initiative in promoting war.
By 1934, the world depression slowed down his domestic program. Mussolini decided that his people needed a national challenge to boost their spirits. They would acquire a new colony next to Italian Somaliland in Ethiopia. His target was Walwal, a desert watering hole. On December 5th, 1934, under the leadership of Marshal de Bono, an incompetent World War I general, Italian troops provoked a skirmish over the water rights at Walwal. The Ethiopians were easily routed in this test encounter. In Addis Ababa, an enraged Haile Selassie demanded that the League of Nations punish Italy. He had every reason to believe that the League would stop Mussolini. Mussolini claimed that he was provoked and that the League should instead censure Ethiopia. The League discussed discussed the Wall incident reluctantly, afraid to offend Mussolini, who was considered a buffer to Nazi Germany. Hitler's appearance in Venice underscored the terrifying possibility that the two fascist dictators might join forces. The Venice meeting was a disaster. From the beginning, the imperious Il Duce in complete dress regalia snubbed Hitler, who arrived in a blue serge suit. Mussolini was cool and condescending. The differences between Hitler and